Welcome to this episode of Mercy Can Stop Her. I'm your host, Judith Cambia Obatusa, JJO. On today's episode, I want to talk about something that I noticed, and I believe you may have noticed it too. Let me ask you something. Have you ever met people who kind of excuse the behaviors of their children? When another person's child is in a similar manner, they are super harsh to the child or even the mom. Today, we're going to be talking about double standards, how the standards shift when it is the person or themselves. Sometimes we listen to people criticize other people, criticize their decisions, criticize things about them. And you now hear the same person giving an excuse for why someone else who is behaving in a similar manner is doing so. That is double standard. And you find it very common among us women. We find it common when it comes to issues of motherhood and womanhood. So today we're going to talk about how the world can judge you harshly for the very same thing, excuse in others, and why this is so important, why this conversation is important, and why it is important that you are anchored in your values. Because that's the only way to surmount the rejection, the guilt, the shame that these double standards pour upon us. I found that looking into myself and having a judge that's beyond these people, these double standard people, makes a whole lot of difference. There is a judge that there is a judge that is fair, he's just, he is righteous. That judge is God. He's the one whose judgment really matters to me. And I want to encourage you for that to be your own story. I talk about this because of the impact on ourselves as individuals and upon on our children when we have children. When we when my children first came to Canada, when we first came to Canada, my children really went through a lot. One of the things that we went through was racism, systemic racism in the schools. It is an experience that many children who are new immigrants, Black immigrant children, find themselves being bullied by other children in schools. And when that child responds to those who are bullying them, the child gets punished. And sometimes more harshly than the perpetrators. Because the perpetrators know the system. So they can create an illusion about that child. But I believe teachers should know better, right? Because they've been going through they've seen this happen time and time again. But sadly, that's not what we see. If you if you if you come from a country like Nigeria, where I came from, in Nigeria, I wasn't familiar with this bullying. I didn't experience it. My children did not experience it. And when you send your children to school in Nigeria, the child goes to school. The child goes to school and the teacher teaches the child one, ABC, one, two, three. The teacher teaches them what they were sent to school to learn. What they were sent to learn, to get an education, to become empowered, equipped for their lives as adults so that they can be, in Nigeria, we call our children the leaders of tomorrow, so that they can stand up with pride in the world. In Nigeria, I'm not aware from my experience and the experience of my children that teachers gang up against children. I'm not aware of that. I've never experienced it, neither have my other friends who were mothers like me. We've never had to discuss this kind of things, but here in Canada, that's not the case. We have situations where teachers have ideas about a Black child and they express those negative, many times negative ideas in a covert manner. And because children are super smart, they know when their teacher doesn't care for a particular child or when that child is being mistreated. And so what do? They jump on the wagon and they begin to mistreat the child. And that is some of the things that my children went through. And I'm not just, just saying things. These are experiences with proof. So we're going through this stuff, and I remember someone who should have known better because I later found out that they knew better. And this woman was trying to tell me how all this, how did I raise my kids? I'm spoiling my kids, kinds of negative stuff. And she was saying all those things to me, trying to impute shame on me until I met another Nigerian. This person was Nigerian. I met another Nigerian who told me the story of this woman's firstborn. Firstborn at the age of 14 used to jump out at night to attend parties, and they really gave their parents a hard time. I do not say this to judge the firstborn. Children go through things, children act out. But this person did not tell me this part. This person just was trying to make me doubt myself. And when you hear those criticisms about your children, you're now upset, you're impatient, and you begin to react. Like, at that time, I was a yeller, yelling and, basically telling the child, you're disgracing me, blah, 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 because the person telling me was so close to me, which is why I'm bringing this conversation up today. All that yelling, all that losing control because of these double standards is wrong. As mothers, we need to parent with intention. We need to parent with a plan. In other words, when we give birth to our children, they are not weeds. They need to be nurtured. They need to be planted. The gardener plants his garden. He knows, he determines to remove weeds. He determines how to direct the growth of his plants. We don't just let our children run when we give birth to them. We need to be sensitive to our children. You need to be sensitive to your children's needs. You need to be sensitive to them. Well, but how can you be sensitive to your children's needs when you are not even sensitive to yourself? When you are not self-aware? How can we expect a woman who is not self-aware to be aware of others? It is important that as a woman, you know yourself. You need to know when you're being triggered. You need to know when you are responding or you are responding to a trigger that's outside of yourself. Like when they say, oh, cannot control her child. Child is so disrespectful. What kind of mother allows that? Really insulting. When you are, taking out your displeasure on the child. Reel yourself in when you begin to, because you're self-aware, you begin to notice that my reaction is not because of what this child has done. It's because of what they've said to me. Words that have been spoken into my mind by these people. And this person was saying all these things to me. And this was impacting me, the way I was showing up as a mom. And one thing about this person is the way she treats her children. They are the most important, valuable things in the world. And she's not the only one I've seen do that. I've seen other people who are mistreating other people's children, but their own kids, they treat them with so much respect. And I realized something. Some people are very good mothers to their own children, but they are not good mothers to any other person's children. As an old school Nigerian, I believe every mother is a mother to children. The children don't have to be their own. So you can love children that are not necessarily your own. But I found out that I was wrong, especially here in the white man's land, as I call it. Even the system has been made in such a way that you cannot stand up for another child when that child is not your own. You cannot speak up for them easily. You have to mind your business. So even when you come here and you meet certain family members or friends, certain friends you may have known before you came, they may not be caring in the way that we do in Nigeria and in all the other countries where we knew these people from. They may be different and they will not tell you. So you need to learn to listen inside of yourself so that you do not begin to react to situations, creating problems in your home because of these people. Your child is a gift from God. And that child has, God has given you instincts that is specific for each of your children. But you need to be in that place to hear those directions. They say your child is disrespectful while their own child is having a rough day. Your child cannot greet, but you know these North American children, as that's their own children. You need to understand that they are North American children. But your children just got here. So your children need to greet, but you're Nigerian. Double standard. So I'm using my Nigerian heritage. This is just one example. I don't know what your own story may be. Please, you need to be aware of double standards and how they impact you, how they impact you in the way you show up with those that are valuable to you, your children, for example, how they impact you in the way you show up in life. You need to make up your mind how you want to show love to your own children. And this issue of loving your children is so important. You have to love your kids. And yes, many parents will say we love our children, but you have to show them love. My daughter, my late daughter, used to tell me, I did not ask to be here. And it's not a lie. The children did not write us a letter. They didn't write you a letter to say, please, can you allow me to come and stay with you? No. Someone might hear this now and say, oh, God gave me. I didn't even want a child. If you had sex, you wanted a child. Some people are going to argue unprotected sex, whatever. Sometimes people use protection, it doesn't work. If you had sex, you knew that the chances were you could get a child. Oh, I was so young. I didn't know the implication. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. It's a consequence of our actions. For some of us, it's a consequence of an action that we were not prepared for the outcome of. For some others, we really wanted our children. And when they came, they may even have been celebrated, but then life began to happen to us. And we were not in a very good mental situation. The truth is that even when we have the greatest plans for our children, something in life can begin to trigger things in our past that we had forgotten about. Maybe we had childhood trauma, but forgotten about it because life was good. Suddenly you have children and you have this added layer of responsibility in your life, added stressors. And then you begin to get triggered because something in your past has been woken up. Look, I need to tell you, there are people that have double standards. They have two different responses depending on who is watching and who is involved. And if you're not careful, you begin to internalize those voices. The example I gave before about my experience with my children, that was it. Begin to internalize those voices. Actually, people that, for example, when you get to a new country, these are the people that you first meet, the people you know from back. Whatever they say, you begin to internalize. And the internalization of these voices makes you now begin parent or live your life out of fear and shame instead of love and purpose. Like I said, we need to be intentional. We have to be intentional. And one thing about intentionality is decision. We're going to have to decide. You're going to have to decide that you're not going to wait. You're going to decide and stay on your decision. You don't have to wait like I did. Like I didn't get it. I didn't get it early. I didn't get it early and it cost me big time. You have to decide early how you want to live your life. You have to. The words that you're going to receive, the ones you're going to reject. You need to understand that even when you make mistakes, it does not make you a bad person. So as we're here now talking, you are listening and you're hearing stuff and it's helping you. If these words are reminding you of a way that you could be better, you're not a bad person. There is hope for you, even if you have made mistakes. You have what it takes to be good. Sometimes they tell you you are spoiling your children, you are too soft, you're too hard. The truth is, when we are given these blessings, these gifts for God, like I was saying earlier, we are given an instinct regarding the children. Some of our children need extra love. My firstborn, she needed a lot of love. I loved her dearly, but I didn't love her the way she needed to be loved when it could have healed her. I didn't know myself. I was easily moved by these people with double standards. I listened to them. I learned too late, and even in too late, I was still overwhelmed sometimes. So I want to encourage you, you need to be sensitive to the needs of your loved ones, of your children, and even your own needs. If you're comfortable, if your spirit rests easy when you're gentle with your children, be gentle. And the truth is, children need you to be gentle. The worst behaved children need the most gentle responses. They need you to be gentle. So you're not too soft. You're not too hard. You're not too much. You're not enough. You are human. You're learning. You are doing the best that you can with what you've got. Most of all, you are not alone. There's one who loves you, who is there for you. That's the number one person that you should begin to look at for your standard. My life began to change when I stopped bothering with these people. When I began to look at God, look into His Word, He became my source. He became my source. I remember them playing music all day on my phone, just leave it, and and not, not those times I used to waste going after these people, these double standard people, going to their homes, and I stopped it. I stopped all of that. I thought about what I would do for my kids, and I focused on it, and that's what you need to do. One of the things I've learned about being a mother, I have learned about being a mother, being a woman, and just being human, is that the world will always have opinions. Nothing we can do about that. There will always be these people with double standards. We're reading it in the news every day. Someone does something, it's horrible, it's terrible. Another person does the same thing. Nobody says anything about it. The same thing. Someone does something that they've been doing for 5,000 years, others have been doing for 5,000 years, and nobody has seen any problem with it. But because you don't like this person, whatever they're doing is cruel, it's horrible, and that's how it is in our one-to-one relationships. Every time people tell you things about yourself, about your children, negative things, anytime they give you reason to doubt who you are, don't always swallow it line and sinker. There's always motive. They have an opinion, and their opinion is determined by their motive. Because when people love you, even when you're acting crazy, they will still love you. So, like some men have some very difficult kind of behavior from their wives, and they just say, that's my wife, with such affection too. Why there's another man who has the cutest, loveliest wife? Because he's a narcissist, he does not have patience for her. And she's walking on tenterhooks. She's tiptoeing around him. She can't be crazy. When someone loves you, you can be crazy and they still love your craziness. There are loud opinions, there are judgmental opinions, inconsistent ones. But look, you cannot afford to live your life bound by this world's double standards. There is something that God has given you right inside of yourself. It's a compass, a quiet voice, a divine whisper that allows you be yourself. It knows who you are and reminds you of what matters. Even when you allow the world's voices take over your mind, you will never, ever be able to hear what your inner compass is telling you. The inner compass, that inner compass is the presence of God. Is that divine, is the voice of the divine. That presence of God thrives in peace. That voice can be heard when you let peace reign, which is why no matter the situation you're in, you just have to be determined to have peace inside of yourself. The Bible calls Jesus the Prince of Peace. He's the peace in the eye of the storm, in the center of the storm. In other words, there is a storm, but right in the center, you have peace. I'm not here to tell you that, oh, you can change your life in a minute. Even those who tell us those things, they didn't change their lives in a minute. They began by taking small steps until one day when they woke up. That challenge was no longer there because they had been working on it for some time. So, and one way we're going to work on it is they seeking peace. You need to hear direction from within. God has given you. Some people say, I know in my knower. It is that God-given knowing, the still small voice that says you are doing okay. Keep going. Calm down. Don't listen to them. That is the spirit. That is the voice. That is your inner compass. Proverbs 4, verse 23 says, above all else, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of your life. One translation says from within it, for everything you do, flows from it. You cannot afford to let so-called family members, friends, so-called experts feed you lies that make you doubt yourself, that make you show up for your loved ones. I mean, for your children especially, show up for them as a mediocre version of the mother, the total human, great 100% mother that God gave them because you're listening to these people. Look, there are those people, and there are also some other people. If you don't shut yourself out, you will find them. What it just means is that you begin to learn to choose wisely. Those that you're letting in, the voices that you're letting in, you begin to choose them wisely. Not every opinion is worth absorbing. Not every stare is worth interpreting. Don't care. Don't care about the stares. Not every voice is telling the truth. That's why it's so important to know what you value, because when you're able to create that peace, to live in peace, you begin to hear. And from what you're hearing, from what you're hearing, you can now see what you value from hearing from within you, from being able to see yourself from inside. You know what you value. When you are anchored in what you believe about parenting, relationships, faith, success, identity, you are not tossed around by the storm, of other people's expectations, other people's judgments, other people's opinions, other people's sometimes blatant lies. You cannot be moved by every wind of doctrine. You cannot. And if you're listening to me and you call yourself a Christian, even the Bible does not agree that we should be moved around by every wind of doctrine. Bible says a man that is not stable cannot receive anything from God. You gotta believe what God has said concerning you and your children. One of the things that listening to my heart has done for me is when I don't have peace about something, about a relationship, then I step back. I wasn't like that before. It's when I started working with this. I found that working, I found that, you know, found that that helped me. It works for me. Things I don't understand. Take a pause. I just don't feel safe with the person because I don't feel safe. I give it some gap. I give some gap in the relationship. And then later I find out that this is why. At that moment, I don't know. I just have a check in my spirit. So I take a gap. And every time I don't listen, I live to regret it. You may have experienced this. Please leave a comment and let me know if you've experienced this. I want to say one more thing. Even when you're standing in truth, we need people. No man is an island. No woman is an island. I found a community where I could be myself. I didn't know it was possible to be in a place where people get you, where people say, get me. In this community, I found people who had similar experiences. And I can only tell you one thing, community is important. We were never meant to go on the journey of life alone. We were never meant to build alone. And it's hard to do it alone, especially when you are in a pain, in that place of pain, exhaustion. You can't do it alone. You need others. There are people out there who won't just love you. They won't just love, they won't just love your social media posts, your highlight reel. They will love your honesty, honesty. They'll cry with you when your day feels like it's too much. They'll cheer for you when you get the tiniest of wins. They'll say, me too, instead of, I could never. It's never. I found that community, and you can too. I found that community when I found Kathy Heller. I attended a program called Me to Do This. We now formed a group out of that program. We call that group Keep the Momentum. And we've stayed together now for 3 years. We're still friends. And because of that community, so many of us got strength to go through heart-rending things. Loss of children, loss of marriages, loss of businesses, starting over because of the community that we found online. Many of us have never met ourselves in person, but we've remained friends. We can share our heart, our pain with one another. So if you haven't found your people yet, I want you to not give up. There are communities where you can be real and still be enough, just the way that you are. Don't give up. Just don't give up. Keep on searching, keep on believing that you're worthy of relationships rooted in truth and not performance. Oh my, virtue signaling is a big deal now. It's all over the world. I can assure you that God hears. It was when I was saying, God, more than this, I need more, that God found me, this community. And while you are searching, be that person, kind of person for someone else. During the time I needed community, I was also growing in my reliance on God and my relationship with Him and Him alone rather than before. If anything happens, I will start calling people, who would I call, who will I call? But some of those people didn't even wish me well. Looking back at some of the advice I was given when I first got to this country, they were bad advice. They were wasteful advice. They were advice that have cost me, cost my daughter, cost my daughter her life, cost us my daughter's life. But it happened, but that's fine. Well, it's not fine, but it's fine. You know what I mean? So while you search, be the kind of person you want someone else to be to you, to someone else, because what you seek is also seeking you. So today, wherever you are, in your car, in your kitchen, under the covers, or walking through a quiet moment of doubt, I want you to know this. My sister, you're doing better than you think. You are allowed to outgrow other people's expectations. You are still good. Even if your children are acting out, you are worthy of grace. Not just when you get it right, but especially when you don't. Most especially when you don't. Double standards may be loud. They may be very, very loud. But let me tell you, they don't define you. The direction from within, your values, your people, that's what defines you. Your people will love you no matter what way you are, what you do. They love you just the way you are. So stand in your truth. Speak gently to yourself. Compassion for yourself. Have compassion for your children. Have compassion for them. You know what? Your children are the fruit of your body. They lived inside you. They live inside you. And even if you did not conceive them, you nurture them, you raise them. So be gentle. Love them. They had the seed, the good seed that is you. They have that seed in their lives. So speak gently, most especially when you want to yell. Take a deep breath. And I want you to keep looking for your circle if you don't have them yet. And remember, when you do this, mercy won't stop you. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.